Do you feel like it's a time limit on engagement, or how soon is too soon to be married?
I think that's a great question. And then here's what I would say to people. I don't get caught up in time limits or all of that. The biggest thing is understanding what marriage is. Like truly understanding what marriage is. And that's from a spiritual standpoint of what your role is going to be as a man and as a woman. Maturity, spiritual maturity, mentally responsibility maturity. I mean, because we already knew what we wanted, I think, as our roles. She had her own individual thoughts. I had my own. And, you know, for me, it was growing up. No urges, seeking God, making smart choices, being a good provider and a good husband. Funny story, I told one of my friends I was getting married, and the first thing he said is, I wonder how long it's going to take for you to cheat. And I didn't get offended by that. Most people really would, because the bad part about that him saying that is that's become a norm in our society, right? So I was glad he said that to me, because it was a way of holding myself accountable. Like, is this really the way it's supposed to be? No, that means he hasn't grown up yet. Because I personally never consider myself to ever cheat on my wife, and I take that personal. I want to be a great husband. I always said when I became a husband, I wanted to be the best husband I possibly could be to her. So I think it's a lot of maturity. I don't think time plays a role in any of this. Don't get me wrong. You shouldn't meet somebody in tomorrow.
Get married the next month.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is growth. It takes growth, and but you have to grow up and understand what marriage is really about, what the component is, because this is no joke, and it's a serious thing. And marriage is forever. If you go in it like, man, as soon as this person irritates me, I'm gone, then don't ever think about getting married. If you go in it thinking like, dang, I still like shorty over here, don't do it, you know. And that was the biggest thing for me, you know, because when I was in college, I loved women, and that urge is no longer there. 0% urge to be with. I only like being with my wife, you know. And that ain't saying that I'm blind or oblivious to other women. It's just saying that my urge that I have is for my wife only. So that's kind of like how I look at it.
I don't know what else to say after he said all that. Something to be conscious of, though, and as a woman, you have to pay close attention to the habits of the person you're with, of the man you're with. And I heard on the radio when I was a little girl, the host was saying, you always want to be with someone for at least all 4 seasons, because everybody is different depending on the season. And I just think it's good to be conscious of that, because we all act different depending on what time of the year it is, whether you want to admit it or not. Summer, you're completely different than how you are in the winter. So I've been with him or been around him, and we've been best friends for so long that I know what to expect emotionally depending on what time of the year it is. I know what habits he has, what things that he's going to give and not going to give, depending on what time of the year it is, and that's just something that he does and doesn't do subconsciously. You always want to pay attention to people's character, and it takes you time to see people in different situations so you can really understand how much they really value their character and their integrity, because sometimes people's personalities will have you blinded to their true character. You know, we ignore little things because people seem like they wouldn't be, you know, a certain kind of way, and we just got to pay attention to how people respond in certain situations. You walk by certain things and it's just kind of like, you know, don't be afraid to just challenge people when it comes to what you see and you know, questions you have about their character and integrity, because people's character and your integrity should mean everything, and it doesn't always. So making sure that you've seen them in enough situations that you can kind of gauge their character. So how do you find time for balance when it comes to together time and time apart for individuality?
I think that we both have projects and things that we aspire to do, and when we start working on those things, we make sure each other have enough space so we can accomplish what we need to accomplish. When we have questions, we ask each other, but for the most part, we kind of give each other the distance, because you have to still have your own identity, regardless if you're married or not. And I think we've done a good job of that, and I don't mind, and I know she don't mind, because I'm busy most of the time working on my project, which is being a great basketball trainer, and she's writing a book and doing some other things, and that's important to her, and it's important to me, and vice versa.
I don't think it's anything to be. I think people are scared of it. I think especially women, they are afraid of getting swallowed up in their marriage. And I think as long as you both go in there understanding that you need individual time, time alone, and have that understanding, it's going to be a lot easier than you realize. And, things are going to be up and down. Like right now, his priority is getting his business done, getting his business established, getting that going. So that has become my priority too. And so it's like, as his helpmeet, I can't be so caught up on saying, okay, I need some me time, like every week for at least 5 hours. It's a sacrifice at times, and I'm like, look, this is priority. This is part of his destiny, and it's my job as his helpmeet to be there. And so, even when we have a pretty decent sized apartment, so you just find ways to get your me time. Like when he's off at training, I have the house to myself. That's my time to be able to just sit back and do whatever I want. Or if I'm working on, a project or something and I'm in the other room, he just leaves me to my space and to my time to do whatever it is I'm doing, and he doesn't interrupt that moment. And I think we almost feel like me time requires one to be on one side of the city and the other person to be in another. And I think you can do that in your own home if you kind of establish that between the two of you. So if I don't have me time in a week, I'm not dying, for me time. But at the same time, I'm like, you should love being around your spouse. Like, you guys should be best friends, that it's not going to kill you if you go a couple of weeks without having a few hours to yourself. And like I said, it's, at times you will have to make the sacrifice. Right now, his business is priority. So I'm like, what do we need to do? Work on a website. We need to do what? And once that is where it is he wants it to be at, then I'll go back to my stuff. And then there'll be a time where that's going to switch. When what I'm doing, it needs to be on the forefront, and I'm sure he'll make the sacrifices to be there to support me. So just don't be afraid of being swallowed up. Just make sure that you guys establish that, that you guys are going to keep your individuality, and that you're going to be committed to each other, but also being willing to give each other space. We're not like controlling. So if I just say I want to go get some ice cream by myself, he's not going to have a fit. Has the compromise part been smooth? And her additional comment is, I know I am strongly opinionated and I like things a certain way. Was it easy to mesh your lifestyles into one?
I say again, we are a little different.
Very.
I think that people, they make a big deal out of the small things. And as a man, I always want her to be happy. So, and I don't have a big ego, so that helps. I don't need to be like, oh, I'm the man, so you got to do it this way. And I know who I married as well. I married a strong, bold black woman. So, I respect that. I respect her power. And it's not that big of a deal. It don't scare me. It don't intimidate me, because I'm a strong black man. So when you start talking about compromise and all that, I don't even think we go through stuff like that I could be wrong, but I don't. What she does don't bother me. You know, how she talk don't bother me. How she challenged me don't bother me. It actually makes me better. It makes me think more. So, you know, I really don't. I haven't really experienced that stuff or really paid too much attention to it.
I think we are a very unique situation. When you think about both of us don't have the mindset to argue a lot. You know, we're not big on always getting our way. Just as individuals, we both are that way. I don't have time to be arguing with you all the time. You know, it's just not in our personalities to be that way. And so with both of us being like-minded like that, the compromise part was pretty easy. And lifestyles meshing, it was just, it just wasn't that hard. Not saying that we don't have, like, you know, little speed bumps or whatever, right. But it's just different because we're married now. And certain things that probably you didn't make, you kind of brushed off before you were married as no big deal, you know, you can't really do that anymore. Because it's like, you have to just keep brushing it off for the rest of your life. Like, this person is not going anywhere. So it's like, look, we got to take care, you know, and address this habit, you know, or this pattern or this whatever it is. So I think, one, just always being mindful that this is a lifelong commitment. So if neither person is willing to compromise, that's going to make that lifelong journey really hard. So
I think the best thing the pastor said to us is making sure that you want the best for your spouse at all times. And if you keep that mindset, I think it makes it a little easier. It makes it a lot easier to deal with. I mean, because I always want the best for her. She always wants the best for me. So you got to humble yourself and making sure that the other person is comfortable. And it may take a little time, but you got to do it eventually.
And then don't be afraid to break the ice. You know, there's just going to be situations at times that are going to be a little awkward, or, you know, you're a bit nervous of the outcome or the response. But you have to be bold enough to just kind of say, look, let's go ahead and hash this out so we can figure out what we need to do to make this work. Because if you want a fruitful and prosperous marriage, it's going to take some sacrificing. And people won't know what to compromise on or what sacrifices to make if we don't speak up. So no one's going to read your mind and know that this is a problem for you. So that's part of compromising, is great communication and being able to just be honest about what the situation is. People can't fix what they don't know is wrong. So, you know, if you're wishing the best for each other, you'll be willing to do that. I'm not saying it's going to always be easy, but your marriage will prosper from it if you're willing to just make that sacrifice in those moments. So that was the last question. So we thank you guys for asking us questions for our first Ask the Nobles Newlywed edition. So we'll try to do this more often.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.